walk back here to the garden.
What is up, Dirt Dorks? Happy Friday to you. Another fun episode. Mark is taking the night off. So down to the nitty gritty. In my opinion, one of the easiest ways, especially in the early days, that my peer group was wasting a lot of money was buying beneficials, mostly at the high end garden centers. And so we would talk to the employees. They would tell us how beneficial ladybugs were. Mind you, we're growing indoors, we're growing in a tent. And we probably wasted hundreds of dollars trying to figure out why they would die all the time. And so there's a lot to understanding the beneficial world. I think a lot of people that have only experienced ladybugs feel that it's a waste of money, and probably rightly so. But there's other things out there like a green lacewing that Kevin's been showing on Instagram. The assassin bug we're going to talk about. Praying mantis is another one that I think is fantastic for indoors and outdoors. So I wanted to throw it over to my co-host Kevin, kind of talk about the things that you're experiencing with some of these beneficial bugs, and then again, let's get down to what actually works and what's effective, because so much money is wasted, in my opinion, on the ladybugs and then kind of the shittier nematodes that are sold at the garden centers.
All right, y'all. Good evening. You guys are looking at assassin bugs. They got other names, I'm sure. There's lots of different styles, but this style right here is the one that is in my garden every year. They get big, gray looking. They're all over the place, guys. There are hundreds of them out here. You can see two in that shot right now. But they've got a pointy upper lip. Can't remember what they call it, but they'll put that little probe inside, a Japanese beetle, a June bug, a caterpillar, anything they can catch, anything they can get a hold of, they will try to kill it. They're ferocious, uh, just like just like praying mantis, right? That's a big one right there, man. Look at that big old black back he's got. Yeah, he's big. Anyway, that's they're everywhere, and
And
if
it
we
doesn't
just
seem
sit.
like they're as territorial as like some praying mantis species.
No, if you saw on Instagram the other day, you saw like 15 of them right here. And they were like four on a leaf hanging out. Now, if I just went and start to just went go looking everywhere, which I'm not, we can just talk about it, but going and looking everywhere, there's going to be praying mantis out here. There'll be ladybugs, green lacewing. They'll also be the larva of those things. There'll be the actual bug, but then there'll be the larva also. And in larva stages, they get ferocious also. Sorry, I don't want to go too far, so I'm trying not to lose the feed. But like we always say, you're gonna have bugs. I've got mites, little aphids, little things like that, little spiders. I got the leaves that will be folded up like a taco. There's a spider web inside it, and all that stuff. So it's all out there. Everything that's bad is out there. But as you saw, there's an army of bugs, the assassin bugs, just at a minimum, an army of those that are crawling up and around all those branches, staying there, waiting for anything to show up, and they pounce quick. But what else?
So when the
There's
assassin bugs are together, they're kind of like a seek and destroy, like a praying mantis, like a jumping spider. Whereas some of the ladybugs, some of these other things, they seem to more just by almost nuance and sheer volume, they kind of stumble upon it like an aphid outbreak or something like that. And then it seems like they, through pheromones or something, I'm probably talking out my butt here, but it does seem like then
some.
the ladybugs start to fly towards that. Where when you watch more of an assassin bug, a praying mantis, you see them actually hunt almost like a tiger or something, where they're moving around and calculated with what they're trying to achieve.
Yeah, you watch those ladybugs, they roam all the way up the end of the leaf and all the way back down and then go on the bottom. They're like on the Sahara. They're like cheetahs. They're just roaming and roaming and roaming and waiting to chase something down. But those assassin bugs will just sit and hang out. And they wait for, again, they like those Japanese beetles. They like the June bugs. You'll see them just sitting there sucking on the caterpillar. They inject something into it, and then they suck all the juices out, and then they just dump the little body off, and hang out and wait to do it again. Yeah, the praying mantis, they'll kind of hang out like that also, just waiting, looking, being still. Something's gonna crawl up past them pretty quick.
And there's a ton of different species of these. Like I know, not necessarily in our area, but there's assassin bugs. When they kill the prey, they put a portion of the exoskeleton on its back to basically ward off the other predators. That look, I'm a badass over here. So that's what I kind of love about the beneficial world is that there's almost like some symbolism. They use a lot of bright colors to kind of deter one another from attacking certain things. I've always found that quite interesting, to be honest, at such a small level where they, I don't know, I guess that would be clout in the beneficial world when you have 40
Maybe.
insects killed on your back. They're kind of showing off like that.
I've seen that bug before where they stick all the carcasses on their back and just start walking around. You say that's one of these sapping bugs?
Yeah, I've seen it. The only other pictures I've ever seen, just like internet stuff, but there was one gentleman at one of the reptile shows that was talking to me about it. And of course, I forgot the name of the real name of it or whatever, but it was something cool to see, man. And there's a bunch of videos on YouTube. You guys can, on another time check all that out. But there's something to these beneficials, and that's kind of what we wanted to get at. Is if you walk into a basic garden center, a high-end garden center, they usually have nematodes that have probably been sitting there for 6 months. They'll have some ladybugs that they just got in, and then they'll usually have some praying mantis satchels that they just got in as well. The species of the praying mantis that you would get at these high-end garden centers, I don't think is necessarily the best one. And so you want to kind of research some of this stuff, and there's a variety of different species that are almost like through a catalog, if you will. You can pick and choose those things through some research and find out which ones would be better for your indoor environment, outdoor environment. And then kind of when you're taking it to the next level, the ladybugs, at least in my experience, I've never really had them thrive except for like when they're outdoors. And there must be something about sunlight or something. This is me guessing here, but there's something special about that because when they do have sunlight, all of a sudden they start to reproduce like crazy. And it's the larvae, the ladybug larvae, that's actually effective. So the adults don't really do anything but just kind of like lay around unless something's discovered. Where the larvae is actually out there, they look like tiny little alligators, and they're going out there and seeking and destroying, which is another huge benefit for the level of farming that Kevin's showing you guys.
Yeah, if you don't know what a ladybug larva looks like, go look it up because you would probably not pick it out of a lineup of larvae to turn into a ladybug. It looks something totally different. It's got a kind of a long tail with some legs on it. It's got a little red, typically red spot kind of on its back, and it just looks like a worm with legs, a little larva with legs. But they are super ferocious. They'll chase aphids down, and I've got videos of them posted before on Instagram. But again, like that's what I was saying earlier, the larvae of many of these things are really what you're wanting. And so just providing a lot of green, providing a lot of plants like this is very inviting to whenever, the rest of my yard is just flat. There's a big flat field all the way back there, then woods, but right here it's nice, it's lush. In the evening times, guys, I have owls that will sit up here. They're looking for rabbits that are down here that are eating all this vegetation that falls, and then they poop all over the place. I had a getting off bugs, but I had a armadillo come in last night and just destroy all of my cardboard right here. That was my walkway because he was looking for worms and grubs and stuff like that. And he pooped in two places. And if you ever seen the armadillo poop, it's like a hippo. It's just splattered mud everywhere, and it's disgusting. But he did that twice in my garden, and I was kind of like, heck yeah, bring it on. That's fantastic. That's just a whole lot more crazy microbes coming into here. But again, all the plants, growing a couple of plants is good. If you do this, if you have the ability to grow this, you're given a lot of space as an oasis for all kinds of bugs, good and bad. It's like let the battle begin and get you some good soil so the plants are healthy and they can defend themselves. And then you start seeing all kinds of battles going on. You start seeing birds. Look, rabbit right here. Can you see it? These little bunnies are all in. We've got 5 bunnies that live in this garden. They had 2 of them had babies. Here it goes. There's gonna be one running all the way up here. I can see. There he is. Here, let me walk over here so you can see him. There's another one right there. You see him?
Well, can you imagine being a rabbit and running through yards and then stumbling across your yard?
That's exactly right, man. It's inviting. I mean, that's exactly right. My neighbors, they don't. The rabbits don't live in my neighbors' yards. The rabbits come over here and they eat, and I love it. Like if you can see this, this is a pea plant, and you can see how it's all been nibbled. All of that's just gone. That's a rabbit. But there's also rabbit doo doo all around here. I'll take that trade. You know, again, we're off on bugs, but this is the ecosystem that happens. The bugs come in, the animals come in, the shredders come in, everything comes into here, and they start to battle it out. And you know, the bigger point really is the soil here is so healthy, the plants can be healthy that there will be a bug battle going on. It won't be like an infestation happens and they just take over. There's nothing like that in here. There's good and bad going at it.
Well, there's several like soil type gurus. I would say Dr. Lane Ingham's one of the ones that always sticks out for me. That talks about it, even in nature, it's usually like a 95, 5, 90, 10%, where there's beneficials and then there's still basically like a way for the non-beneficials to exist so that the good beneficials don't get lazy. And that's how Mother Nature like kind of keeps up with a lot of different things. So she's figured it out, man. And I think what you're showing us today live is if you continue to grow diversity, then diversity is going to come to your garden. And if you guys have ever purchased like a heavy amount of beneficial bugs, it gets quite expensive. Especially we're going to talk next week with a predatory mite expert, where you're buying all of these things, you can't see them with the naked eye, and you're just kind of hoping that they're working. Where since things have progressed, now it's more just like focusing on the plant. The plant's going to tell you if they're working or not. And having like a trust in the process has gone huge now because of Kevin, other people like him that are out there showing their gardens in real time, talking about growing this stuff for pennies on the dollar. And all of this stuff used to seem almost like a fairy tale for a lot of people that were growing synthetically.
Yeah, that's exactly right. What we're looking at here is another. Let's get onto a bug again. Uh, a beneficial, and sunflowers always have them. And earlier I had a shot of him. He's behind that leaf. He's right there, right there. I know it's blurry, but that's the spider. It's a sunflower spider, and they're yellow, and they match in with the color of the sunflowers. And they will get pollinators. Like they eat good and bad. They're like a praying mantis. But that's another bug to point out are spiders that are specific to certain flowers because of their color matching. And then also, you know, sometimes you walk through and you got a spider web just hanging out between things, and that's totally fine, man. They're just like a filter catching moths and all kinds of grasshoppers. So spiders are a heck of a good bug to have outdoors. Really good bug to have. You don't really typically find an infestation of spiders outside because there's a balance. Inside, that's a whole new ball game. Spiders on the inside can do damage.
I think that's why a lot of people in at least in the cannabis space, really focus on the jumping spider because they don't use any webbing and they're kind of a seek and destroy type thing. So again, I hope we're just planting some more ideas into your head on a Friday night of what is possible using Mother Nature to combat Mother Nature.
Right.
So would you say like the sunflowers attract more like the ladybugs and the spiders and that kind of stuff, and some of the obviously the cannabis plant attracts the assassin bug, the praying
Definitely.
mantis. Are there
Yeah.
some other plants out there that you've noticed it's tried and true? Like if I plant this, you know, it's there's going to be this bug that seems to show up.
Yeah. I can tell you one thing. If you plant peas, these are beans, but if you plant peas, there are certain pea plants that will attract aphids like crazy. They'll just be eaten up with them. And I actually brand some this year, and they were just swamped with aphids. So there are certain plants definitely that I'm learning. Then there's others out there that proven, but I'm learning just by my own experiencing the fun of this. that peas definitely attracted aphids. I can't remember the name. I've got the package in the shed. But man, the one thing I love again are just these big old beautiful. These are fatty short heads right here that I breed. There's just so many seeds. Like, let me show you these seeds. When they fall off like that and they're black back there, you're good. That blackish gray. I kind of just run my finger through them. I like to let them heal, like let the seeds develop a little bit more. Anyway, sunflowers are one of the best things. They have everything on them. I've seen everything on all of the insects just come and hang out. And when it's a big flower, there's all kinds of things on here. There's tons of different sizes of bees. There'll be the honeybees, there'll be the bumblebees, there'll be these itty bitty green bees. See, I don't see any right now. I think everybody's gone. But there'll be green bees all over them. Just a variety, probably 4 or 5 different types of pollinators coming in here. And now listen, the thing about this is assassin bugs, they understand what's going on. Like you'll see assassin bugs and uh praying mantis hang out on the back. They hang out right here all the time, and you'll see it just peek over and pow. They'll hit those pollinators, but it's just because they know they're coming to these things. So flowers are really good. You'll see that I have these zinnias here, and these are big time attractors of butterflies to bring into the garden. Butterflies love the zinnias. Let's see, zinnias. These are marigolds. You can see the yellow. They're just starting to bush out and pop. I've got a yellow and an orange marigold, and those are for seeds that I'll be using because those things just attract pollinator bugs. And when the predator bugs, those big ones that we're talking about, when they understand that there's going to be little butterflies flying and little weak bees, even I've even got a picture of a spider on a sunflower that captured a horsefly, one of those little bitty or yellow sunflower spiders. He's got his front 2 legs holding the wings and he's eating the butt of that horsefly. I mean, that's pretty dang cool. I thought that was fantastic. Horseflies are mean, but you can see these all zinnias all right here, and some marigolds that are now coming up. That some of this is dying back, but this is intended. This is like purposeful, right? We're planting these because I want them here. They bring beauty for sure, but like they bring the pollinators in, which attracts all the other good bugs that we want in here.
And then the sunflowers, some people have always kind of said that it's something special because they're able to turn their head, if you will, and follow the sun, so that there's just more energy to them because they're getting so
Oh
much
yeah.
vitamin D throughout the day. I've always heard that the color is huge. Like if you since you have all these different colors, again from probably however far away these insects can see that, they're able to communicate that and fly over and see that there's so many different plants in this garden right here. We need to go inspect this and check it out. And I would imagine if an owl's sitting there, everything just kind of starts to make sense through Mother Nature of the progression that you're going to see. And then, the owl's picking off the bunny rabbits. The bunny rabbits reproduce so quickly that it's really not that big a deal. And now you have a almost like a nice little Friday night feast, if you will, for the owls if they want to come and kind of snatch it up, and everybody kind of just replenishes and things. The cycle kind of continues, every summer.
Oh yeah. It's I was just talking with I was over at Arkansas hemp farmer's house the other day, hanging out with him, and we were talking about all the animals that we'd had. And this year, for animals, this is the most and variety of animals that I've had in my garden this year. So we've had those 5 bunnies that are in now. We've got squirrels all over the place. We've got nightingales, hawks, and owls that are constantly dive bombing the place and seeing little bitty birdies at our bird feeders. They'll dive bomb those little sparrows and finches. And then on the ground, I've had a beaver in here. First year I've ever had a beaver. I had a beaver twice, and so that was something special because One thing I've been doing for a year now is collecting that beaver chips. Whenever he's out here in these woods, there's along the creek, he's always chomping these little about 2 inch trees that have grown, and he's got a handful or two of beaver chips down there. And I collect those beaver chips and I put them in this bucket that has mushroom substrate in it, and just letting those chips ferment. And I'm going to use them someday, but so that beaver's been here. Raccoons are terrorizing my all of those totes full of IMO 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and all kinds of bokashis. So there's lots of sweet smells in there. I'm having to put like 10 pound, 20 pound, 30 pound weights on top of my lids because those raccoons will open the 5 gallon bucket lid. Like they're pulling it up with their hands and teeth and popping one side, and then they'll just slide their arm in and that or they'll dump it over and try to just pour it all out. So raccoons have been crazy this
They can
year.
smell the sugars from
Oh
pretty
yeah,
far away. You think?
they can smell it from across. Yeah, once they find, like, I always have compost, so they know this place is a gold mine. They know my garden's always got junk laying in it, so they'll be eating in the garden at night, or they'll get in the compost. They just get into whatever. They're really rambunctious. And then we've got the armadillos that come in. Armadillos are like a powerhouse shredder because they come in and they just dig. They're big time diggers. They got these big claws on them, super powerful hardback shells. They can just muscle in and they can dig a foot down, especially in my dirt because it's nice and loose. It's good soil, and they know it's just full of worms. They'll dig a plant up. So like, what I have to do, you won't really be able to see anything, but underneath all of this dead stuff that I constantly throw down, that's a big cannabis plant right there. Underneath that has been placed chicken wire, which has little bitty small square holes. It's a fence, but it has tons of little square holes in it, and it can breathe. Things can grow through it. But the armadillo, when he starts to scratch, he can't get through that chicken wire because what I've had happen many times years before is an armadillo come in and get all crazy in my no-tills, and they get too close to a cannabis plant and they actually dig the plant up and like dig the root up everything. Plant's laying on its side, root ball's been in the air. They just because there's so many worms around, they're just everywhere in the soil. So those are other predator bugs, the big ones, coming in and doing all kinds of different types of work. And again, this type of environment, this look right here, all of this dead stuff, all the food that's just basically laying there for whatever to come and eat. It's for fertilizer for me. It's why I do it. But it's food for any wild animal that lives out there in those woods. But this is inviting to them, and really, just let it happen. I don't want to kill anything. That is not my style. There's a squirrel right here. It's about to come in the fence. But killing stuff isn't my style. That makes me feel yucky and gross. Just because I don't want to take the life, but moreover, these guys are participating. We always talk about this. They're participating in eating and pooping and digging, keeping things fresh and turned up. Nibbling the stuff that's down low that the sun's not going to get to anyway. All this top stuff, we're going to get some good. Starting to get some beans off of this right here. Things are starting to grow, but they're keeping it cleaned up on the bottom. I love it. I just let it all go.
Would a scarecrow work for something like that, or is that trivial?
I mean, they kind of work, but animals are smart. They realize if they're not getting attacked by something, they'll land on its head after a while. So, but people in my neighborhood, they have fake owls sitting on their fence because owls are predators. They'll eat
Yeah.
anything. And so I see fake owls in my own neighborhood out here, but I don't do anything like that.
And your family doesn't have like a barn cat or something to scare off certain things?
Yo, there's a cat. It's not my cat, but there's a cat that hangs out around the compost because there's always mice in the compost, and the compost is backed up to a shed, and underneath that shed, we're gonna have tons of mice that live under the shed, come feed in the compost, and we can get a lot of mice going. Sometimes I have so many mice in the compost that I've got to start putting some kind of little animal trap in there, put some food in or whatever, or put it right at the hole, and they all crawl in. And typically it's like a 5 gallon bucket, but I've grabbed armadillos, mice, other animals, snakes, in a 5 gallon bucket and take them and just either throw them towards the creek or like if it's a armadillo, I'll take it miles away and I'll let it off in the back road. Because and see, here's another thing. Here's another thing we get into. All of these predators and animals and things that you see in your compost or things that you see in your JLF, bugs, fungi, bacteria, whatever the case may be, all of that is there for a season. It comes and it goes. And so, like, you feel like, oh my gosh, these bunnies are going to eat everything. It's like they'll eat and hang out, but then they kind of go wandering out and they stay a couple of nights out in the wilderness and then they come back in the gate. And it's not like they just hang out here for forever. When it's hot, they like to shade, but they go off. It's the same thing with the small insects. Whenever food sources are gone, they don't just hang out. It's just like us. If the grocery stores are done, we got to go to some other grocery store. And so there's seasons. It comes and goes. I often on Instagram have questions about JLF and compost. Like I've got these bugs, man, and they are infested. And it's like, yep, it's because it's their time. It's their time to do what they do in the environment, and they are going to work, 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 and then they're going to eat themselves out of house and home, and things are going to change. They just can't be there anymore, and you'll see some other bug come in and take over for a time. So just remember that they work like that in seasons. They come and they go.
I've noticed too with like buying the bee pollen in the granular form. If you kind of like sprinkle that strategically, put it in cannabis plants and stuff, that seemed to attract ladybugs and green lacewings. Have you ever experimented with anything like that? And does it seem like at least in Oklahoma that for the most part the beneficials are just coming freely, and like you had just mentioned, flying away freely as well?
I have never I have never used anything any kind of pellet like that to attract any kind of predator before. So have you used something like that?
Yeah, there's something special to bee pollen, especially the granular. You can get it in like a real fine powder.
Okay.
That's too small. But the granular side of things, and then you kind of just place them in the plants, especially dill. The dill plants with a little bee pollen seem to attract all kinds of different beneficials. So I would encourage the community to play around with that kind of stuff, even if you're indoors. I think there's benefits to playing around with bee pollen. I've seen ladybugs eat it, green lacewings, praying mantis eat it. I feed it to my isopods. Springtails eat it. My bearded dragon will eat it when it's mixed with Brussels sprouts. So I think there's a lot to just bee pollen in general as a beneficial that seems to trickle down and kind of benefit the rest of the community, especially the beneficial community, if you will. Like there's really something special about bees, and it seems like if you're on the next level like Kevin, you're able to kind of just have Mother Nature perfect everything for you. And so he's not out there constantly spraying, using Roundup. I know in my neighborhood, it's Roundup Central, man, because everybody wants like the perfect yard and all that. Well, the perfect yard is very heavy chemically sprayed to achieve that kind of stuff. You don't really see those bees flying around in those yards, The ones
No,
that win yard of the month, there's no real life in there.
you know what you will see are hornets. You'll see hornets in those nice mowed lawns, and you'll see yellow jacket or whatever bug it is that will burrow down. But you'll see those hornets circling that flat grass. Um, I was walking through Walmart yesterday, and I needed a big spray bottle because mine broke last night. I was about to spray a bunch of BT and a good fungicide, Venerate, and my spray bottle broke. I go into Walmart yesterday, and I'm like, let's just see what they have, some type of OMRI listed thing. Man, I go walking back there, and it is all that's what you just said. The weed spray, Miracle, or it's not Miracle Grow. What is that called, man? I'm not moving on until we get that
Sorry, I
name.
said it. Roundup.
Roundup.
Yeah.
It was all Roundup, and I'm like,
They own the market.
it's horrifying. I'm not going to go get in a road and block it, the highway, to protest this stuff. But the more that I have read and learned about our food supplies, about our farmers and things like this, that they'll spray Roundup on wheat to try to get it to dry faster, to get it to market, and then that's not ever going to be washed off, and all that wheat goes into our supply of everything that is made from wheat. And just it's really yucky to me now, feeling, I appreciate it, collect the marijuana, seeing that. And it's like, that stuff is so unnecessary. What I do does scale up. You work your way into it. It does get there, and it does scale up. There are big natural farmers doing it big. So, that's just I was looking also at a fungicide today, trying to find something else like a copper sprays and like sulfur sprays and things like that. And I had to go to an ag farm. It's called Sutherland's here in Oklahoma, and they have a few good products there. But often, man, that you have to go to a grocery store to actually get some type of thing like a Regalia, a Venerate, an Azamax. Those are some of the good things, some of the good sprays that I will use in preparation right before flower, just to really try to get things prepared for flower. And that's why I had to go get that spray bottle. So, because the other bugs that are coming, moving on, like we're saying, moving past ladybugs here in Oklahoma, I've already got grasshoppers that are this big. Like I said, when I went to Arkansas hemp farmer's house, he was walking through his plants outside and squashing big old grasshoppers just with his hands, just crushing them. They're all over the place. They'll chow your plants down quick. But moving in right now, have already been these little bitty moths that will fly around, lay eggs, and then when the flowers start to grow on certain plants, those little caterpillars will hatch and they start to feed on the flower. And one of the best things to have a big old flower on it, of course, is a cannabis plant. So I was getting my sprays, and I was looking for getting BT, Bacillus thuringiensis. And Mark always adds another name to the end of it. And I can't remember what he calls it, but he gets more specific with it. I just look for something that's OMRI listed, it has BT, and use it. I've also ordered one time from hold on, I'm saying that wrong. I didn't order it. A guy ordered Bacillus thuringiensis from Bokashi Earthworks, who's our friend Brandon Russ, and he made a big 5-gallon barrel of it and sent me some, and I actually used that spray BT, and worked quite well. So there's lots of places that you can get that BT in different ways. You can find it. If you can't find some kind of organic OMRI listed type thing, there's other websites that have the spores that you can use spores, molasses, water, mix that up, and you start to brew it. And that's how you get your big kind of EM1 batch, make you a big batch of that microbiology. So the caterpillars will be here soon. If I don't get some type of bacteria on the plant that will consume those caterpillars and those larvae and those eggs or whatever they are that produce the caterpillars up there.
And then there's like, you play around with any of the limos, kind of creating more of those liquid IMOs and spraying it, as some people have kind of described it as the bugs that are on the human skin, putting it on the plant. Do you kind of want to break that down real quick?
Yeah, so I haven't done that a whole lot. I did something like that one time, again, in my experimental way, using my black soldier flies that were in my compost. Took those and they die. I let them die and mixed them in with rice, gathered an IMO1 with those larvae in it, those bugs there, those black soldier fly larvae in it, and then created a liquid IMO1 from that. You take your IMO1 that you gathered on that rice and that black soldier fly, and you just basically put in a cotton bag, muslin bag, dip it in some water, and use that as a spray. Is a very simple idea and way of that. There are multiple guys. Chris Trump's one of them that kind of started the idea of all this using bugs in a spray form for prevention, like native indigenous bugs, to create some type of preventional spray.
Immune system.
Do what?
It's like an immune system that
Oh yeah.
you're actually adding to that plant. And of course, you guys, you want to kind of research some of this stuff before you just start spraying a bunch of stuff on your plants.
Yeah.
And there are some people that, again, we want to get both sides. They're diehards in saying that you don't spray the plant whatsoever. You don't feed them or anything through the leaves. I've been on the side of things in these last few years where I definitely interviewed a bunch of people, and it definitely seems like to me the ones that are spraying it, that have it, hey, we take showers, plants enjoy the rain outdoors. They're definitely created, designed to accept water. So spraying them is definitely up to the grower. But I think there's benefits, in my opinion, extra benefits by going the extra mile and spraying your plants with some kind of living organism. Same way your skin protects you with living organisms all over your body. I think there is something to that, and I think Chris Trump was a pioneer in that, and a dude named Drake, not
Yeah.
the rat, yeah, but that guy's kind of, his information isn't easily able to find, but if you can go down that rabbit hole, he made a lot of like cartoonish type KNF. What would those be, like infographics? And those infographics, especially in the early days, were a lot easier for me to understand. So I think sometimes watching some of Chris Trump's videos and then Googling Drake's KNF images, and you'll kind of get a nice little mesh of two quality teachers kind of putting out same information, but maybe just a little bit with their own twist in the way that they're explaining it.
Yeah. Well, you see that comment right there from that dude right there? I've watched this guy go leaps and bounds past me on, he started at 0. I was already going. Happy Dirt Dude, he'll come through, he'll find something. He's one of those guys quite similar. He goes down the rabbit hole and he goes so hard he's never able to come back out of it again. And so that's Happy Dirt Dude. I've seen him do it with all kinds of cool stuff. So yeah, dude, I expect great things from you, Happy Dirt Dude. Now that you have discovered a new rabbit hole to fall down into, you're going to find a black hole on this one.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, and there's something too when you understand this stuff at a certain level. Now you got it for life, and so the rest of this is more just kind of like the train's rolling down the track, and then you're just finding ways to either speed it up or improve things. But Mother Nature's, for the most part, she's got this whether you're involved or not. You're kind of more just managing these things that we said over the years, where the earlier days, especially in the synthetic side of things, when you had to go and buy chemicals, had to spray fungicides and pesticides, it was all based on you. Where everything now in the cannabis space is changing. It's more about monitoring the system and managing the system and just letting Mother Nature do it, whether you're growing the actual plant or protecting the plant, you're still using Mother Nature. Yeah, slugs are tough too. I've seen people actually go and like vacuum the slugs off, squish slugs, like whatever you feel comfortable doing.
Yeah, that Mark Nelson, that's a good point. That's ones we haven't even talked about, right? Right yet. Keeping my slug snail bugs off, no more chew marks. So Mark, if you would type something, give us more information real quick. Just a one sentence. What are you doing keeping those slug snail bugs off? How'd you do it? I've never had to deal with slugs that attack my plant. I used to go out. I have 3 big stumps that I based my main garden off of, and those stumps, just the slugs love them because mushrooms grow out of those stumps, and slugs eat mushrooms. I videoed a big slug that was 3 inches long, at least, multiple ones out there just chomping mushrooms, chowing them down. And so that's what they eat. They've never got on my plants. They always go and eat fungus, even the flat fungi that just kind of grows out off of the stump. They'll just go and put their face on it, and you see them just sucking it up, just chewing on bacteria, fungi, whatever it is, because that's what shredders do. Worms, larvae, slugs, things like that. They're just crawling on the soil and digging it and turning it. They actually like to come up and eat microbiology. They'll chew on old food, but they like to hit those bacteria and fungi spots because those microbes have lots of nutrients in them. And I watched Dr. Elaine talk about this one time, and she says, those worms will eat the microbiology. They'll squeeze them and they'll kill them, and they'll get all the nutrients they need, and then they'll poop out those bodies and the rest of the nutrients they don't use. And that's why that vermicompost is so special. It's just loaded with broken down plant available nutrient, and plants can just assume it, immediately. So I'm always looking for shredders. We got into worms before. There are some worms that go vertical, horizontal, create tunnels like this, and they go up and down. And sometimes when you move a rock, you'll see it go, and then there'll be other worms that are wiggled across, and they're laying flat and horizontal, and you'll see them try to wiggle away. So worms work different ways. The shredder, Happy Dirt Dude, you probably looked many of this, but the shredder, the worm itself, there's a variety of worms that do different things and are shaped differently. So that's another rabbit hole to look into, is the shredders that you find all in your garden and in your compost.
Yeah, and I would say in moderation, slugs are a good thing because they have the biofilm. Their little snail trail is the same way that the worms are kind of improving your soil system. So just a few of them. Again, I wouldn't overreact or anything. Even in my grow with the isopods downstairs and stuff, I let a few spiders just kind of hang there. I know my wife hates that shit, but I like to have them there. And then when they make the web, like Kevin was saying in the earlier part of the program, to me it's like going out and buying the yellow sticky traps. It's just that Mother Nature's making them for me. So there's something to when you kind of understand how these things work and what is possible indoors, what is possible outdoors. There's pros and cons of both. But it is a lot easier, obviously, to keep them around if you're growing indoors in a tent with maybe some Baker plants, kind of keeping everything a little bit more diverse than just the cannabis plants. And then if you're outdoors, I would experiment like crazy. I would listen to what everybody's kind of saying, see what works in your own specific situation. Because that's where I found the best growing cannabis or breeding isopods. Even though there's a ton of information out there, a lot of it is just kind of echo chambers. And I realized that, especially in my field, that not enough people are doing it and experiencing it for themselves.
Yeah,
African
night crawler got thriving in the bin. Nice, Rick Easley. Yeah, those are really good ones. Man, I totally forgot your question now. It says something.
No, it wasn't really a question, just highlighting some stuff. And the night crawlers, where Kevin was saying, they're the ones that come up to feed at night. That's why they're called night crawlers. So they come to the top when everybody's sleeping, and they go down when the sun comes up or your lights come on. So those are the ones that are going up and down. The red wigglers are the ones that stay in the rhizosphere. And if you really get into it when things get healthy, you'll notice that those red wigglers are going to turn from like this pinkish color to a dark purple. And when they become that dark purple, that biofilm is like in excess. And all of a sudden, when they're really that extra biofilm and that stickiness, you'll see the isopods and the springtails, and I would imagine predatory mites that you can't see with the naked eye are sticking to that. They're building in all these what's known as dissolved oxygen channels within this system. And so you're basically allowing Mother Nature, it's the intestines of the soil. And in my opinion, that's how you won't need a lot of the beneficials if you start this from the beginning, is because most of them are breeding in the soil system themselves. That's where the fungus gnats and all of that. That's why if you just kill the adults, you never have a layup in the fungus gnats. They're constantly interfering, and eventually it gets out of control. Where if you focus on the soil and then see that the beneficials are kind of more of like the being proactive. They don't necessarily work being reactive. So you might have to spray, kind of reset, if you will, and then go out of your way to get the beneficials again. Because anytime that you spray, usually anything outside of like a compost tea, those are going to kill the beneficials as well as the non-beneficials.
Yeah. We've been talking mostly about outside also. There's a whole new ball game of trying to grow cannabis, if that's what most probably people grow, but grow cannabis indoors. You're actually, if like I grow gasoline now, it's like an 8x4. And I can keep, you can keep ladybugs in there if you want to put ladybugs in there. Share it, guys. Share it too. Share the video, like it and share the video. But growing indoors, I have used ladybugs before with success, trying to, let me tell you exactly what happened so that you guys don't do this. I like beauty. All right. I like to grow for my eyes. I like to be able to take pictures of it, show people like this. I like to show it off. And that requires colors and flowers and shapes and dimensions and things like that. And so I went to Lowe's. This was 3 years ago, so I can be forgiven for it now. I went to Lowe's and got some marigolds. I'm like, yeah, man, it's going to be great. I'm going to get 6 pots of marigolds, stick them in here. It's going to be awesome. Stuck them in there, stuck my little about 4-foot plants in there, and they were going pretty good. And then all of a sudden I see bite marks all over the leaves. I'm like, oh my gosh, it was the marigolds. And I look at the marigolds covered with aphids on the stems. I immediately pull everything out, spray down. I had some ladybugs. I went ahead and put them in there. They did start to eat on the aphids. Eventually all the aphids were gone. It was a successful grow. But if you ever go to Walmart or Lowe's or whatever store that you have there, and they've got all their vegetables and their flowers and everything like that, just pull those branches apart and look, and you're going to see stuff you don't want in your garden. That's why you start to learn to grow things from seed. That's what protects you from these things. If you want those flowers, go buy you a pack of zinnia seeds. It's going to cost you $2.99 here at my local store. And you're going to get about 25 seeds, and that's plenty to cover your garden with some beautiful flowers from flower, then or from seed. Then you get your seeds again from the year's flower, and it's just a recycling thing that you can always protect the flowers that you have put that in your garden. Because those people that go to Lowe's and buy all those plants, man, their stuff is swamped with aphids. And when the temperatures get hot and the days get dry and those plants start to have a little bit of trouble and put out some weak signals and things like that, you're going to attract way more aphids. You're going to start to see more cucumber squash bugs on those vines when it starts to get hot. That's why just today I pulled down all of my cucumber vines because they were just getting so hot. They're having a hard time, and then the bugs knew it and they were coming and they were taking a drink from the sap that was in the big leaf stems. And it's a it's a recipe for disaster. But starting seed is a good way to also bring in, the beneficials that you want, like sunflowers. Bringing in pollinators constantly for me.
If you're in a city, a big enough city, where there is Home Depots and stuff, there's usually also somewhere within driving distance a higher end garden center that you could go to. And I would recommend going to that. And then even getting seeds from that place, not even having the Home Depots or the Lowe's and stuff, because there's no quality or attention to detail that's given there. Where you can go and find some other places that offer you a better seed. You can kind of run around and look. So that was like Gold Bar, great advice, fantastic. Because the last thing you want to do, especially if you're brand new to this, is go and buy something that probably has realistically spider mites at the very least. At Lowe's or Home Depot, and once your eye is trained to see spider mites, you'll actually start to then see russet mites or thrips or aphids that is constantly in there. And like you said, you almost have to be a detective and kind of break things open the same way you crack open a nug, and you'll see that there's all kinds of things going in there. So from day one, if we're playing chess here and our goal is to grow cannabis as medicine and all of the things that I would imagine you guys sitting here on a Friday night listening to us talk on YouTube, well, then, of course, these are chess moves from the other plants as well from cannabis. And so Kevin's giving you tried and true advice. I mean, a lot of people out there, it's been known as the no clone zone even. I've seen that in a variety of people's tents and stuff before. Hey, we're only growing seed in this tent. I'm sick of getting russet mites from my friends or spider mites or whatever it is. And if you're brand new to it, sometimes even white flies, that's a more of a nuisance. But it can be a dramatic shot in the foot if you're brand new to this, just trying to get your plants not to have any deficiencies. So whatever your skill set is at, I promise you want to always have in the back of your mind that you do have some kind of pest problem. And that's why you're constantly getting diversity into the garden, whether it's indoors or out.
That's right. Who was that? Tori, trap plants. That's another idea that we have not talked about. This idea. Thank you, Tori. Good comment there. The idea of a trap plant. There's lots of names for this. My predator plants, different types of names, and what I use is amaranth. I grow amaranth right in the middle of my garden often, and I have a big amaranth plant going right now. And amaranth actually the seed can be used like a type of rice, kind of grits type of a feel, real small seeds. They're edible. Birds like them. They're big. They get lots of foliage. But one thing is that bugs love them. They just chew on the leaves. But the amaranth stem is about that big. It's big old stem. It's healthy. It's down in the ground. And it's just taking it. Like they just chomp on it. Grasshoppers eating on it. You see the June bugs chewing on it. And so the idea is this: I've got that nice amaranth plant growing, and it seems to be able to handle a lot of bugs and still grow. I don't ever spray it with anything. I spray my other plants with my IPM regiments, but when I come up along the amaranth plant, I don't spray anything at all. And you just leave that plant available. And that's why it's called a trap plant. You're trying to trap, some of your bugs that like to chew on plants. When they come to it, they're like, ooh, tasty, nothing on it. This is delicious. Let's chow down, and it's a juicy plant. You can eat the leaves in salads. So it's a juicy, tender plant that bugs like to eat because, they get liquid from it. So Tori, thank you, sir.
Yeah, I think to keep it again within time frame of that hour, we got a couple questions for you. And then when you guys really like these kind of things in the comments, just say, hey, I'd love to see a part 2 of this. We just kind of rattle off, obviously off the top of our head. We have a theme, obviously, for each and every week. But a lot of this stuff is just kind of off the dome for reasons. We want it to come off as genuine and trying as best we can to have this community. So when you guys do find something like that where you're saying, hey, I didn't know about this, knowledge bombs, that kind of stuff, let us know. And I promise you we'll come even more prepared for it. We can talk about things on a deeper level. I can research and get the name of the assassin bug that throws the carcasses on its back, because that's cool as shit, man. I promise you, if you've ever seen it. And playing around with the praying mantis and that kind of stuff. If you guys are really into just having some mushrooms on a Friday night and releasing a few ladybugs, even with praying mantis in the system, they will grab the praying mantis will grab the ladybug, find where the head is. So I've even seen them turn it, and this is like at lightning speed, by the way. Turn the ladybug and then just start to eat from the head in, and it's a gruesome world, but at the same time, when you're learning about this stuff and protecting plants, it's a very cool thing to see in real time, man, especially if you're tripping with your buddies. So let's get into real quick.
No, I'm sorry. I agree. Like, I live in my garden, y'all. I live in it because I see nature going on constantly. I see awesome things that I never post. It's just for me.
Yeah, and I think as a man, it's kind of your escape. Some people have their man caves or whatever, and I think others have their cannabis plants and their tent cave, if you will, or however you want to explain it. But it's a way to get away, but still be present. Like sometimes you, especially with Kevin and I, sometimes you just do have too many kids, and you need to get away for a little 20 minutes. So it's nice to be able to go downstairs in the basement or go outside in his. That's my goal there. But to just get away and have something that you're kind of catering to, and it de-stresses you. And for me, that's always been cannabis. Whether I'm smoking it or growing it, just feels great being around it. All right, Juggalo Dak. Is it better to buy your beneficials locally to your environment?
Well, it seems in the organic natural farming knowledge flow, yes. Just for indigenous biology seems to already be weathered and, tried and true in the environment, because they're the ones that are here working right now. However, let's shout out to our buddy Mark, who is not able to be here with us tonight. We miss him when he was here. That guy has got what you need, because I use I was going to tell him last week and I forgot to say this. I'm going to say it now. He sent me a bunch of springtails, beautiful springtails. I've used some, and then I kept the rest of them in a box that he sent, the box that he sent in the tubs that he sent, put it under my bed, just left it there. I haven't looked at it for months, maybe 2 months. I opened it up just the other day. Look at it. There's thousands. They're all active. Everything is just going crazy. And so I haven't yet, but I plan on going after it's not so hot outside. Like Oklahoma's been 100 degrees for the last 2 weeks. We're going to have another week of 100 degrees coming up. So those beneficials are going to stay where they are. And when those temperatures drop, I'm going to go out there and, like he said, just turn them over and tap it, and then put the lid back on and let them reboot. And hopefully the ones that fall in there will provide, their work and what they do for the environment. So don't forget, Mark's got good stuff. Brian's got good stuff. I've got good stuff. But I don't want to deny the fact that I think the wisdom in natural farming is to try to keep it within your environment as much as you possibly can. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think again, like building a healthy soil system is going to go a lot further than any kind of like beneficials that you could buy.
Very true.
Yeah. And also a little caveat, a lot of the ladybugs that you'll see, it's coming from the same big company. So even if you think you're buying local, it might even say that it's in your state. Most of the time, if you then go on the internet and research a little bit more, those ladybugs are not from that whatever state. They just processed them there. So it's kind of like the same thing with weird bologna with cheese in it and stuff. The processing is what's gross. There's been people even at the commercial level in cannabis that have brought in infestations when they've spent a lot of money on those ladybugs because they have the potential to have a bunch of different diseases already within the systems because they just put them in the cup, they put them in the refrigerator, and then they basically freeze in time. So a lot to research for that. And again, I would personally use green lacewings over ladybugs if I was spending money.
Yeah, we didn't talk about green lacewings, Brian. Golly.
Yeah. Well, here we go. I mean, that's what I mean. There's a lot to this, and we're here to help you guys out. But even this little hour here, I would imagine it will at least give you the hesitation to spend a lot of money on ladybugs because the little old ladies at the garden centers, they had me convinced that the ladybug was basically like a praying mantis or something. It's the lion they're going to eat the aphids, all this kind of bullshit, to be honest. And I'm sure it was coming with good intentions. It's just
sure they were told that
they don't grow cannabis,
Yeah.
Like, Kevin, have you ever used chopped up sunflower seeds for IMO 4?
Well, yeah, probably in a way, not just specifically chopped up, but from my dried sunflower husks and the dried up flour that would pull all the seeds out. I have bags of sunflower seeds right now. But all of that, yeah, that will go into the compost. If it dries up enough, I'll use it in IMO 3 or an IMO 4 mix. So, yeah, sunflowers are extremely versatile in my environment.
Yeah, and again, if you're on the more of like the metaphysical side of things, there's something special about the sunflowers and the acorns, the avocados. It's that nut with a seed that seems to be something special in when the microbial world gets a hold of it. The proteins, the fats, the calciums, all the different things in those, that's hard to find in Mother Nature. So it's kind of like giving it a boost, if you will, a shot in the arm of real quality food systems that they can turn into nutrients, not only for the soil, but for your plants.
So let me tell you this, I cannot use just my compost to pop any seed in because that seed will be cracked and the inside will be eaten out immediately. I actually do have to, what I have done is I reuse a perlite mix that I got from the dump of a fruit market here. They had a bunch of trays and I just grabbed all the trays, mixed all of it back into a 5-gallon bucket. I'll amend it with a little bit of something, IMO 3 and some little soil from my garden. But that's what I have to pop it in because you're right, Brian, that they will chow a seed because it's food until it pops. But once it pops, they don't mess with it anymore. They don't eat it. Once it's alive, they don't mess with it.
Especially if you have a real strong root system. It's like they know, like, hey, you stay off this. All right. Again, shout out to Happy Dirt Dude. I've heard trees are great to attract pollinators as well. Absolutely, especially when you're talking chess games. Do you have any tree recommendations for pollinators?
Yeah, so man, 3 years ago or so, I used to have my back fence was lined with fruit trees. I had cherries, apples, peach, pears, plums, apricots. I had a variety of trees back there. And so here's the deal. What happened with it? The first year we got it, they put out flowers and they put out fruit. I was like, oh, that's cool. You don't usually expect that. The next 3 or 4 years, they put out flowers, which definitely attract pollinators big time because they put out a lot of fruit flower. But the problem was they start to flower early March when they get a sunny week or so. And then a freeze comes and all the buds die. And all I've got is a bunch of big old trees back there with leaves on them just blocking the sun that aren't giving me any fruit or anything. And then finally what happened was, I got those electrical lines that are by my house. The electrical company came by and said, I need to cut all those trees down because they're too close. I was like, whatever. They're not even coming close to those lines. But you know what? I don't want them anymore. Please cut them down. And I was like, please cut these other 3 trees down too. And it's the 3 trees that make my garden up. Now, those 3 stumps that I have. I was like, let's just cut this big one down. And so it kind of worked out. But yeah, fruit trees are the best because they flower a lot. I have dogwoods here, and they don't really attract. The dogwood flower does not really attract much of anything. So it's beautiful, no doubt about it. Now that Oklahoma redbud, I'm sure it does. There's the Bradford pear, which is an invasive species, and many of the organic gardeners will tell you do not plant Bradford pears. But Bradford pears put out a bunch of flowers, a bunch of branches. They're good. If you got them in your yard, they're weak trees. They're pretty when they flower. They get big and green and beautiful in the summer, but the first heavy snow or something, they'll break off immediately.
And that's another thing too. If you're buying trees, again, you want to spend the extra money to go to an actual nursery. If you buy trees from Home Depot or Lowe's, more than likely they're going to die on you. I even learned that from long time experience, like 2007. When I bought my first house. I wasted probably $1,000 on bullshit trees.
Ooh.
Juggalo Dak. Will chickens or goats mess with garden plants?
Well, yeah, a goat will eat your whole garden down, no doubt about it. Now, chickens are a little different. They like to scratch the dirt up. They're great for composting and scratching. They're just like a shredder. They come in and they like to scratch the dirt, and then they look and see and peck and scratch the dirt, So I would love to have chickens. We have, like Brian said, we have too many kids, man. I got to keep kids alive before I start worrying about chickens. But there'll probably be years to come, and I'll have some chickens going and things like that once, seasons change. So yeah, chickens, I would love to have chickens. I'd love to feed them black soldier flies. I'd love to have a reason to breed black soldier flies and try to get big 5-gallon bucketfuls of them, because I know I could do it. It just would be another thing, but I don't have the reason isn't there to actually go through all the work to make that happen. But yeah, chicken's good. Goats, no, they're going to chow down everything.
Yeah, goats are kind of gross too.
Goat poop is good.
Yeah, goat milk is good too.
Goat cheese is good.
Last question here, Mothy. I'm just trying to find IPM info. I'm in Virginia. Anything specific for Virginia?
Yeah, I mean, this is a whole new show, but I'm trying to find IPM info. If let's say you're looking for an organic IPM that people make, there's OHN, there's EM5, there's labs. There is a variety of bacterias that you can, that I make. It's kind of like a Micro Plus that you get off of Bokashi Earthworks. Has lots of different bacterias, but you can also go to a place called Bioag. I have bought bacterias and things from Bioag guys, and I'm telling you what, 3 years ago, I used to make cucumber bacteria tea, and I got this a gallon bottle of bacteria from Bioag, and it's got 5 different bacterias in it. And all I would do is take the bottle, turn it upside down, and then I'd unscrew the lid, and all the black juice that was on the lid, dip it in the 5-gallon bucket, and it's over. There would be a biofilm in 3 days that was half an inch thick and just bubbles all over it, and the bacteria was going crazy. So you can spray bacteria on your plants. That's actually an easy thing to do, that you can make IMO 1 teas, IMO 2 teas, IMO 3 teas. But if you're looking for like other sprays that you might want to buy, there are sprays that are good that you can buy, and I do buy and I use. We just talked about them earlier in the show. One of them is Venerate. The reason I learned about Venerate, which is a biofungicide, is because my clones started getting chewed up with this gooey mess and rot the middle out. And I learned all about funguses and all kinds of stuff then. And that's when I learned a guy said Venerate has been really good for him. I bought a bottle. I've had it for probably 4 years. It's just like this big, but I don't use much. But it's been almost 4 years. One bottle. It is expensive. It's probably going to be around $60, maybe $80, depending on where you are. But that has lasted me a long time, and that really works well for funguses, keeping your plants healthy. Another one for a biomycicide, I don't know what it would be, but it would be for bugs, is Regalia is one that I like to use. Again, I bought a bottle probably 3 years ago of this. I still have plenty of it. It's a good spray to use. Again, an expensive one. But if you're going to do this, don't buy these cheap brands that you can get at any grocery store. You're going to want to look into some things, ask some people like me telling you this is what I have used and it has worked for me, because you can spend all kinds of money on IPM sprays, no doubt about it. You know, another one that I found worked fantastic if I ever had an infestation of aphids is Azamax. It's a product that really works well on bugs on the stem. Man, it really does a good job. So maybe that'll help you. I tell you what, Monty, if you want to contact me on the Instagram or my website or email, okcalix@gmail.com, I've got an IPM pack, and it'll have OHN, EM5. It'll have some FEMs and some slaps and stickers, and I'll give you a heck of a deal on it just to get you a little something, you know, get your mind wet. Get you wanting to think more. Now you have it in your hands. You can see it and smell it, know how it's been made. Then you're like, okay, I can step forward now in the IPM world because I have a better understanding. Because that's what we want for you guys.
Absolutely. And if you're really brand new to this, and that's why you're trying to find IPM, the end game is where it's at, right? So you want to start from day one understanding healthy soil systems, because that is the knowledge that's going to keep you from having to learn reactive measures to all of these different pest pressures, where if everything's healthy, you might have a pest pressure and might not notice, or it just might be just a little pocket in the garden where you got to maybe do some manicuring. But other than that, they'll take care of things, and you can add things, and you can remove a plant. That's why a lot of people, especially some of the older heads, aren't really into the raised beds, because they still like to have the ability to remove a plant if something goes haywire. Other than just cutting it. So again, it's your own style. We do hope that you guys like Happy Dirt Dude take this and then run with it, experiment with it, come back and teach us stuff about this, because not everybody has the time, especially with a ton of kids, to sit here and truly experiment with things in the same way that somebody that maybe has a little more free time is able to achieve.
No doubt, man. When I was first doing this, here's the one point. When I first was doing this, my Instagram shows it too. I went nuts, just like, golly, sorry, just like Mark, or freaking forgot his name. The guy was talking, goes nuts on it. I started learning organic gardening and native farming and all that stuff. And I went haywire on it. I just learned everything there was and experimented and tried it. And I would boil it down to what I needed to make the same end product, and not go through all the steps or all the rules or even all the ingredients often. And you know, what's happened now is I have experimented and I've kneaded and created, and now I have my own style. And it's like, okay, I've built this foundation for my style to grow out of. And it's kind of like right now, I don't really experiment a lot. It's like I make more of what I need now. And it's like things have morphed and changed, this organic growing thing. And Happy Dirt Dude, I'm sorry, I totally forgot. Happy Dirt Dude has been the same way. Got him. I think we met at the Mushroom Festival last year, and I'm going to be there again this year in October. Getting started on it, you're going to experiment and do things, and then you're going to realize I don't need to do that. And that actually kind of costs me a little time and effort and money, possibly. And so I'm going to cut that out. And that's okay in the organic world, because when I first started the organic trip, I thought, okay, I have to do all these things because that's what the garden needs in this system. And I thought that the system was always as a whole, and every ingredient and every rule had to be followed for the entire organic thing to happen. And then quickly I found out, like, okay, no, this ain't it. There's a Japanese word, and I think it's called kaizen. Sorry, guys, I'm not ready for this. I might have missaid that. Kaizen, I think, is the word. And y'all check that out and look it up. But I've got a little speech on this that I haven't given yet, but I'm working on. And the idea is this: in the Japanese world, you have this idea of we are going to do something or make something or cook something, create something, and we're going to do it so well that we will have every step planned out and it will be done perfectly every time. And it's the mentality of that culture is what it is. And that's why you see like bonsai trees that have grown for 100 years and they've been shaped and cared for. And there's a list of things that would go on. You could talk about that culture, how they love the detail of the work itself. And so my point is this: when the guys that started KNF and Jadam, they actually went to Japan to begin learning Japanese natural farming methods. Then they brought those methods back to Korea and said, okay, this is what we need here in Korea. Hence me saying, I now have hit my system and I don't need anything because I'm matched with my environment and I'm plugged in and we're dialed in. They went to Korea and said, okay, what does our environment need? What does it provide and offer? How can we use it? How to create our growing system and style? And they created Korean natural farming. And then from Korean natural farming, the son comes up and he says, okay, how can I develop a new system, not a new system, a different system or a parallel system that works for maybe a more specific farmer, such as the poor communist farmer who doesn't have anything and needs to create everything by himself for free from nature. And that's when Jadam comes along. So that the whole history of that is they created their own little specific set and rules and ways and methods because of that mentality of that Kaizen word. I think, again, how you pronounce it. And what you do with your environment is you learn all of those things that these guys that I'm doing and other guys are doing. And you're like, oh, wow, that is a form and a system that I'm seeing happen now. What gold can I take from that system? What little bit can I take that will use in my environment and will work? And then you start finding all those bits and pieces that work in your environment. You create your own system. Then you start to focus in on what you actually need. And the system really starts to pump and run because you cut the fat, right? You're using and doing only the things that you need and you'll be using later on. You're not just kind of making stuff to be making stuff. And don't get me wrong, you go through that phase. There's no question about it. That's where the knowledge comes, is experimenting and learning and trying, looking and seeing what other people do and saying, ooh, I'm going to try that. And I might try it with something that I have here, something different, use different ingredients, experiment, as I always say. But know that KNF systems were built on that mentality of going step by step just to honor the thing itself. We don't have to think like that. Don't have
Right.
to.
The way you spin the, spin the OHN and all that kind of stuff.
Yes.
There's the very techniques that are almost kind of a nuance is if you're not buying into the more of, I guess, the metaphysical side of what they're trying to say. What I like about too, from that standpoint, is it shows how an intelligent father can spend his life devoted to something. His son learns about it and then takes it to another level. And I think that is something pretty cool to see too. Not only takes it to another level, but makes it even cheaper, maybe a little stinkier, but a little bit cheaper for everybody else that wants to achieve those things. And again, that's why we do these kind of shows. We hope that it passes on to somebody that can figure this out, that's way smarter than us, and that understands these things, so that the community as a whole could just have skill sets that maybe are just a little bit better than their peer group. Because let's face it, especially when you're growing cannabis, your cannabis has got to be just a little bit better than the competition for somebody to drive past dispensaries and those kind of things to come see you, whether you're in the gray market or not. There's a ton of dispensaries out there. There's a ton of people in the gray market. What keeps your cannabis out there and keeps it standing out? And to me, that's the protection of, the look of it. So obviously having those trichomes means that it's not spraying pesticides is going to be a huge advantage to you if you choose to use that as a monetary thing. And then I promise you that the guys, if you choose to take that and then have it washed, either if you learn how to do that or have somebody do it for you, they're going to greatly appreciate the living soil grower that you're going to become, because it's a lot easier for them to take that product and turn it into something special. So I think you're even doing that, aren't you, Kevin, with Scissortail? Like you need one art form, they need that canvas, and then from that canvas, they take their own artwork and create something that is truly something special. And again, that's where that price point comes in.
Yeah, exactly. There's so many things, and there's so many special little things you can do. You know, I learned so much off the subject real quick, talking about Scissortail solventless. I have watched him press his stuff before and watched his system and just the little twists and turns and the moments and the weights and all the things that he'll do before he even presses it that will turn that rosin just golden white, you know, beautiful colors, gets all the air out. So yeah, it's an art. Everything can be an art. But you know, one thing is this: what will happen is that mentality of making things perfect will come around. It'll come back home. You'll get lost in the environment. You'll get lost in the inputs. You'll get lost in all the acronyms and all that stuff. And then things start to roll. One wheel happens, another wheel goes, and then everybody's starting to move along. And then what happens before you know it, just like Happy Dirt Dude, just like myself, you start to actually have your own system that really is dialed in, that is kind of specific, that you're like, yeah, I use this and this and this at this time. And I did it 2 years ago. I love it. Been doing it the whole time. And you actually do create your own art form in your own environment, just like we're talking about the Japanese farmers would do.
I saw there was one last question thrown up here, and I just guess it's obviously a new question in my opinion. What things are safe to spray through flower and harvest? Nothing, in my opinion. Once week 2 has kind of gone by, unless you're really trying to save that harvest, we've always joked that once they're in flower, those girls are off to college. And daddy doesn't get to, you're not in charge of those girls anymore. So it's up to kind of whatever happens. You try to protect them as best you can. You set them up in veg. You definitely set them up for success as best you can for the first 2 weeks of flower. And then you kind of release them and let them go. There is something to that, and if you can find success and going through the struggles of harvesting that way, once you have that skill set, I promise you your medicine is going to be better than most of your peers, and people are going to ask you how you're doing that. And most people that spray pesticides secretly will not talk about that. And so if you're brand new to this, you might not even know that kind of stuff yet, but most people that grow don't have the same work ethic as you usually. That are out there, and so there's a lot to this, and I think putting it out there that you don't spray at all anything beneficial either, like you're not putting limo on at week 7 or something like that, right? You're just letting them out there. Yeah, you could throw into, go ahead, man.
I'm sorry. So yes, I agree 100%. What's the best thing to spray on them? Nothing. Let me go this route first. Here's one reason why. Since we were talking about Scissortail solventless, I've been over at his place. This has been months ago when he was able to. He's not able to do anything right now, so everybody know that because of the laws of Oklahoma. He's almost there. We're almost there. I'm almost able to breed. We're almost able to make hash and all kinds of cool stuff, but not yet. But one time when I was over there, we were washing some flour that was brought, and as I'm washing it, you wash for about 5 hand wash. We stir. Go for about 5 minutes. We rest for about 5 minutes. Do that again about 5 times. About the 3rd wash, when I go back to wash, I open the lid and I look down there and I see a sheen, an oil sheen in the water itself. And Warren was like, "Yeah, it's because they spray stuff on it." He's like, "This is their product. You know, you can taste petroleum products if it's there's enough of it. You can taste it in hash rosin. You can taste it in flower rosin. You can taste it on the flower." So yeah, that's one reason that you just don't want to spray, because that hash rosin, like often when growers bring it to him, he makes part of his money by keeping part of the product, and that's something he can put out if he likes it as something he pressed, and credit the grower, things like that. But that's something he can't do. He washes that, he starts seeing oil sheen on it, and he's like, "Okay, I can't use any of this." So he's out all of it except the work he's done. He's not going to keep that hash rosin that has the oil on it. Now, let me tell you this, guys. I don't spray anything on my plants. Let me also preface that with, I'm not saying you can't spray anything on your plants, even in like week 5 and 7. There's things that you want to try to do, go for it. There's possibilities, but I'm not. Now, whenever we washed my Lion Queen and my Truffle Queen from last summer, when we took it over there to Cigitel Savanas, we washed it, and it was the prettiest hash rosin we all have ever seen. It was so golden and clean and pretty, and there was no marks, no burns, no nothing that might show up with some lower product. But it's because I sprayed nothing on those flowers, guys. There was nothing. You know what was on them? Bird poop. That was on them. Spider webs. That was on them. Dead bodies of insects. That was all over them. Human hair. That's on them. Dust from when they come and mow my back field. Dust from when they brush hog a hay field just over the fence. You know, all of that was on my plants. That's why you see me turn them upside down often, dunk them in a trash can, or you see me, I'll show you, I'll just spray them off with a hose before it's time to chop. You know, it's just to clean them up a little bit. But there's no petroleum on it. There's no nasty chemical. There's all nature all over it. No doubt about it. But that doesn't affect that taste. But man, you get some chemicals up in there and you start getting a nasty product. So the goal is to not spray anything. Having said that, you could possibly spray like a light spray of OHN, a light spray of EM5, possibly a light spray of labs. Light sprays of that to try to increase microbiology that might help eat pathogens or anything that might be on your leaves and stuff like that. Maybe a spray of sulfur if you're trying to kind of protect, like even there's sprays to protect your flowers, like I'm going blank now. Citric acid would be one. Water soluble calcium, trying to help your flowers stay healthy. That might be something you actually would do a little bit of spray just to help prevent bud rot. You know, so there's potentially some things, like I said. However, I spray nothing. It is what it is. If I got bud rot, I cut it out. That's all there is to it.
Yeah, and if you're brand new to this and you're asking like these kind of questions, like can I spray through flower through harvest, you're more than likely going to get powdery mildew or bud rot than you are protecting the plants from insects. If this is your brand new, you're brand new to this. So just start out slow. Like I said, if you got white flies or something, we've all been there where that's not necessarily that big a deal. You can deal with that and still have a fantastic harvest. It's more of when you go out of your way to probably, be extra proactive, that you do get bud rot, you do get powdery mildew, especially in towns like Oklahoma where the humidity seems like it just never goes away.
Oh, it's nuts.
What state you're in matters a lot too.
Definitely. You know what? And another thing is this: some plants attract powdery mildew more than others. And you know what's one of the biggest attractors of powdery mildew? Zinnias. Zinnias will be covered with powdery mildew. But you see, I have zinnias right next to my cannabis plants, right? Don't ask me how. I don't know. But I will spray the zinnias also. But they always have powdery mildew. But the powdery mildew has yet to affect my buds. And they'll be right by those zinnias all year long. So don't ask me how. That's why they grow together, though, because I've seen it done before and it works.
Yeah, we can talk more about that on another show of why, in my opinion, you can get away with a lot more by building up the calcium and stuff with powdery mildew. There's a lot to that, the crystallization and all that. So, yeah, diving deeper into IPM today. This is part one, I think, now, especially from some of the feedback that we've gotten. And I know a lot of people watch the show, on the replay. So for you that have made it this far, we'd love to hear your feedback. You want to hear part 2, part 3? You want us to break it down? Mark behind the scenes is working with a guy that's rearing predatory mites. That's information that I don't think I've ever heard anybody willing to share before. So that's, in my opinion, a huge gold nugget that's going to be revealed in a week or two on this show that I personally was never even able to get somebody that's going to talk about that openly and freely about what it takes to breed predatory mites. That's their bread and butter.
Yeah, that's going to be really cool, guys. Be good. So here's a Lost Coast plant therapy. Doesn't absorb into plant. It suffocates insects, then evaporates, and it's organic, non-GMO. There you go. Good information, Juggalo Dak. Thank you, sir.
Right on. Well, let's end this. It's Friday night. Let's enjoy our families and the weekend. Do you have any special deals, or you want to, kind of to your end wrap up there, Kevin?
Yes, sir. Once again, I just talked to Jordan from Growcast this week. We have the October 19th autumn all immersive hands-on out in the woods class with me. It's my class. I'm teaching it all. I've got the handouts. I've got the curriculum made. We're going to grow out in the woods. I'll show you where to look. I'll show you what to harvest, how to process it, how to turn it into something that you can put into your garden that will be beneficial, though. The whole process. And we're going to learn about a whole lot of different inputs that we can make. So go to growcastpodcast.com. Check that out. We have, I believe, 17 tickets sold, a total of 30 tickets. So we're over halfway sold out, and we're about to start kind of posting things on Instagram. So the tickets will be sold out. Growcastpodcast.com. Go to okcalyxshop.com. I've got some some strains up that are cheap, some regs up for cheap. I'll be soon posting some new stuff that I haven't posted online before. I've got a little ice cream cake crossed to a killer squealer. Me and Ganja Farmer Genetics, we have worked the killer squealer many times. I've got one growing in my yard right now. It's going to get pollinated with a male cherry on a grande this summer. And so all of that stuff, after we flower out and we see what it smells like, I'll be putting about 15 new films up that me, Fatbeard Pothead, Kid, Mac, and Scissortail Solventless are all running as a group, testing all these plants out that we bred last season. So okcalyxshop.com, go check it out. Brian, what you got, man?
Just again, everybody that's supporting rubberduckyisopods.com and terrariumtribe.com each and every week, just doing quietly behind the scenes, just doing really big things, and we're gracious for that. And I just appreciate it. For everybody that's telling their friends about feeding isopods to their reptiles, it makes a lot of sense to them. It's a lot easier with a bioactive setup. I have some things in the oven, if you will, that I'm hoping to bring to market within the next few weeks. So just excited to share a lot of stuff with you guys. And there's a lot of opportunity, I think, for people that are understanding soil systems at the level that our Friday night crew is. And I hope that you guys realize that what Kevin is offering, what Mark is able to offer, what I am able to offer, some of the guests that have been on here, especially Turp Wizard that was on here last week, in my opinion, that's kind of a national known, upper echelon grower. So you guys are listening, and washers. So you guys are getting a peek into what I think is upper echelon type stuff on this little tiny show that we've been putting together. So I'm very proud of that. And I just wanted to highlight that there's a lot of people that I think are giving to this community that are upper echelon. And Kevin, you have it in spades, bud. So we appreciate it each and every week, man.
Thanks, man.
Mark will be here next week as well, and we'll get back at it with the three of us. See y'all next week.
See you guys.